When you offer these opportunities, a lot of times students feel that they're in a safe space and they can actually really talk about what's going on with them, because when we ask, they don't always share. But when you create these safe spaces, such as the Innovation Gym, we had several individuals with mental health issues, and they said it was the first time they felt like they fit in and that there was hope.
Welcome to Forward with NACCE, Inspiring Entrepreneurial Action, a podcast that shares the stories of everyday entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial leaders, and the communities that support us. We hope that this diverse collection of stories brings you inspiration, inspires you to take action, and ignites entrepreneurship in your community as we make our way forward together.
Welcome to this episode of Forward with NACCE. I'm Rebecca Corbin, and I'm really happy to be here today talking to one of my favorite champions who works for one of our community colleges out in Oregon, who's doing some really groundbreaking work in mental health and also entrepreneurship. So I want to welcome Dr. Kim Fries to the show, and I see your beautiful mountains in the background. So why don't we just begin by you introducing yourself to our audience? Tell us a little bit about you and maybe a little bit about your background, which led you to being and working and living in Oregon.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Kim Fries. I work for Rogue Community College. I'm the Dean of Science and Applied Technology, which really aligns well with my workforce history. I was an entrepreneur prior to going into higher ed. I had, about 23 businesses, about 13 startups. So I would say that I was infused with the entrepreneurial spirit early. I started my first business when I was 19. And then continued through that process. And along the way, I mentored youth that were incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, and other individuals that were struggling with mental health issues. And I found that just being in this space of fostering an entrepreneurial mindset and being involved in something entrepreneurial seemed to help these individuals. That prompted me and motivated me. Partly due to the youth I was working with, we all made a challenge to go back to college. So I went back to college with a group of about 15 students. Absolutely loved psychology, spent 15 years in education. I achieved my doctoral degree in 2019 in clinical psychology. I continued this work at College of the Siskiyous, actually, in California and throughout California, bringing entrepreneurial mindset workshops and classes to students and embedding entrepreneurial mindset through activities and project-based and design-based learning in my psychology classes, which is quite unusual, but it really seemed to work and it took off. And so the basis of my dissertation was the benefits of entrepreneurial mindset in community college students with mental health issues. So that brought me here and moved to Oregon to take this opportunity and to hopefully bring the work to more individuals so they can benefit from this.
Yeah, I mean, it just strikes me knowing you over many years, your compassion and your drive. And, what we talk about too, a lot in our work of trying to move things forward. Because I look at entrepreneurial mindset a lot as growth mindset, because sometimes people aren't all like they're not going to start 19 businesses, and they might not start any businesses, but they can innovate, they can grow, and they can really achieve and build a life that's meaningful. And I think I see the work that you are. I know your title is Dean, which is really impressive, but I think I see you as somewhat as a guide of showing people that sometimes, what others might perceive to be a disadvantage can be turned around and become an advantage. So let's talk a little bit about mental health. I mean, it's really come to the fore of just, common discussions at chambers of commerce and places where it was never discussed, at least in my experience before. Maybe share with us a little bit, Kim, what are some of the mental health issues that college students struggle with, and how do you, in your work seek to, kind of get your faculty to support them, and how do you provide that support to faculty and students together?
I think that we're all aware that mental health issues have become very prevalent in society, and more so, we're seeing more mental health issues in our students, much more than ever before in history. And I would say that post, pandemic really elucidated the need to address mental health issues, because so many individuals, all of us, were affected by the pandemic, and it was such tumultuous and uncertain times that we saw, increasing levels, students really struggling. And the levels, there's different data, but probably 50% of students suffer from some type of mental health disorder, but about 71% struggle with mainly stress and anxiety or emotional distress. And what we're finding is that because I continually research, because it's just a fascinating subject, what can we do about it? Because sometimes, therapy is just not enough, and we always have other options. But we're very limited in most of our colleges with counselors. There's perhaps maybe one counselor to every 1,500 students. So there's really just it's something that I don't feel like the colleges are completely prepared to address. When I looked for adjunctive complementary treatments and a more holistic approach to treating community college students that have mental health issues, I found that there were so many stigmas and misperceptions about mental health and labeling that was associated with that. So, we fast forward to the post-pandemic, and the world just feels uneven, and change is happening at a rapid pace. And I don't feel like individuals are able to keep up with that. So add the workload of college life, many are caregiving, juggling, multiple jobs, children, caregiving for parents. And we're seeing these stress and emotional distress and anxiety levels just escalating. I took upon a few students that knew I was working towards my clinical psychology degree, and work with them because they really had nowhere else to go. And this is what prompted the work that I do now. And I found that there were a few things. One was really capitalizing on the characteristics of an entrepreneurial mindset. It's not just about starting a business. That's the side benefit. It's the work that happens in that space. And then also the characteristics that you build, or resiliency, self-efficacy, perseverance. Just being in a creative space is really healthy for the brain. So I started piloting it with some individuals who were struggling, and the results were just outstanding. So I embedded activities in entrepreneurial mindset, evoking projects, team-based. I threw them into right in the deep end and had them create things and just work as a team. And they were very uncertain. They were very uncomfortable. And I found that a lot of times when we have a mental health issue, we are uncomfortable. We try to hide it. We don't want to show the world our real self. And that's an extra burden when you're already struggling for self-identity and to build self-efficacy. And we are so much of what, our environments and how we were raised, and even our workforce. The mindsets are interesting, Rebecca. I want to share that it's a concept that came about in the 19th century. And it was really interesting in that, there's this theory that, we don't see images in our mind, and that a lot of things that happen are really outside of our thought process. So these are these thoughts and things that happen and we process really outside of our awareness. I found that by altering, and not altering maybe is not the best word, but in looking at the mindsets from perhaps a fixed mindset and this rigid structure to more of a growth mindset, that students were able to process information better, to not fear failure. You're familiar with effectuation. So I drew in a lot of theories, flow theory, positive psychology. So I brought in several theories and research to just kind of back this up. And so anyway, I've been teaching this theory within my psychology classes for about 15 years now. And so it's really exciting to see the students in a space start to grow. And the funnest part is when I get into a class, if I can share this, they're expecting the typical class, and I get a diverse group of students in all ages, which is wonderful. They get in a space and they wait for me to lecture and talk about the syllabi and all the rules and all the things that they have to do and what I expect and what I want from them. And I don't do that. I bring them into space. Dr. Corbin is fantastic. And there's this wild look, and some of them are bored and they don't want to take psychology and they don't want to be looked at and they don't want to be assessed. And so I just share out that you're just going to grow and you're going to figure it out. You're going to do all these things. And the first thing I do is I give them something to do. And they say, well, are you going to give us directions? Are you going to tell us what to do? No, you're going to figure it out on your own. You're going to work with teams and you're going to problem solve. And if you fail, it's going to be really great. There's no worry about a grade. And I don't test. They get this space, and it's hilarious. And it takes them about 2 or 3 weeks. I have two high school students I'm still in contact with, and they said it was the first time in their educational experience they were ever able to think for themselves. And so it was really interesting how they they continued to grow and really entertained even entrepreneurial aspirations. And they built self-efficacy, and we mapped out their journey. And I had several students that were either veterans that were suffering from PTSD or some form of mental health issue, and also some other students. And so we were really able to take, as you mentioned earlier, we took what they viewed as a weakness and something that they felt ashamed of or embarrassed about. We took all of that and we built that into the strength of who they are, and to capitalize on that, because oftentimes with mental health issues, even depression, and anxiety and stress, and even, bipolar personality disorders, there are these really hidden gems of strengths that individuals possess. Perhaps it's creativity, or they've already built up so much resiliency from surviving that what we do in the class is we take all that, we capitalize on that, we allow them to have this space that they can grow in, and through design-based and project-based learning, it's amazing. So I wish I could film one of the classes, and by the time we get down to the 11th week, they're ready to pitch. They take on a capstone. We look at building a nonprofit. We do all kinds of things. We draw, we color mandalas, we do it all. And it is just so funny. It's so funny to watch them. So,
Yeah, it's transformational, really, and
yes.
it strikes me that that's really why we want people to go to college, right? Is to expand the mind, and maybe rather than labels that are negative, they come up with their own sense of who they are. It also reminds me when I was doing my doctoral work, which is like, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, I had to take a class at Wilmington University. It was called Pluralistic Communities, and it was the same thing. And we were all working professionals, doing this at night, and there was no textbook. So we went in there, and these were grumblings, a lot of higher ed people, and they're like, well, how can we have a class with no textbook? And she pushed us, and we had to go and experience different kinds of communities. Like, you had to pick one. You could go to the Holocaust Museum, but if you if you were Jewish or had that in your family, you couldn't pick that, because then that's not a new experience. And I still keep in touch with that cohort today, and we still talk about how that was the most impactful class, and every single one of us complained about it, like, for the first week or two. And to think about,
Yeah.
like, the work that you're doing, that we're doing as a community at NACCE, it's exciting. And I want to get into a really cool thing that you're working on that kind of extends, I think something that is going to be stood up as a national model, I'm guessing, is this innovation jam. That is really cool. And so I want you to talk a little bit from our audience who, may or may not be familiar with what even that means, or a pitch competition. Talk about sort of what you came up with and kind of where you're headed with that idea.
So it started with the class. When I finished the class, is every time the students ask me, "Can we have more? Will you teach another class? What can we do? Can we gather?" It's really been life changing for us. And so I was really wanting to take this work to a more broader demographic and increase the ecosystem around entrepreneurship. And so there's a group of us that started meeting, and they're working collaboratively with a grant on an innovation hub, which would be a collated set of resources. So this was separate, but it feels like things were moving really slow based on the need for the students, the immediate need of the students, and understanding the benefit of teamwork and problem-based thinking and critical thinking and finding solutions. How good that is, honestly, for the brain. And then just also for building and fostering that entrepreneurial mindset. So I spoke to some individuals I had worked with, SBDC and SOU, and we had just partnered on some small projects. And I asked them if they would help me launch this. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how to really do this on my own. It's a huge effort. So we came up with the idea of an innovation jam, and the wording was just to really inspire individuals that this is a fun place to be, to ideate and to work together. So we put together an event, and then I work with Invent Oregon. One of my colleagues, Dusty, a science faculty, we encourage participation in Invent Oregon, which is a competition. Students create a product. Typically, it's engineering students around some type of climate-based issue or sustainability. And so, anyway, I've been, helping with that for, 3 years. I love it, but I feel like the work should continue throughout the year because it's one time. So anyway, I came up with this idea of an innovation jam. And so Invent Oregon was on board, and they helped sponsor it. And then Portland Community College Entrepreneurial Center wanted to be involved as well. So together we put through this event together in like 3 months. And so it was this space where the students show up. We actually had 35 sign up, and we were hoping for maybe 5 or 6 first time. And yeah. And so the idea was that they show up and we give them 3 pressing solutions from our region. And so they had 3 areas to choose from. And their goal was during that whole day was to come up with a solution as a team. And we started them off with a Rochambeau session to kind of as an icebreaker because they were all very nervous and quiet. Some didn't want to talk. And, it was really fun to be in this really uncomfortable space for them. And then to break it up in Rochambeau, they formed teams and they worked through the day through design-based thinking. And they worked on, they got to choose the problems. We also had customers from the region come in and they interviewed the customers. They worked one-on-one with the customers and they had a mentor and a pitch coach. And it was really good for them to interview the customers. So they really get that feeling and that interaction with someone and really help expand that design thinking. And then it finished up with a pitch. And so they had 5 minutes to pitch their product, which really, I don't know, one of the things that I came away with was how in a space of 2 hours, and this was an 8-hour event, in 2 hours, you could go from people being uncomfortable and uncertain to the noise level in the room you couldn't even hear. Yeah, it was close. So anyway, we pitch. Everyone received something and some honor, but all of the teams approached all 3 pressing issues and addressed them. And a few of those individuals are moving forward into Event Oregon with their inventions. And so, others are actually literally launching ideas that maybe they've thought about for 12 years. So it was fabulous. So the goal is to run it again in the fall.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. Unfortunately,
Yes.
our time is running short, but I really encourage people to kind of look into the work that you're doing. You work at Rogue Community College, which is beautiful. I've been out there, Grants Pass, Oregon, just a phenomenally, lovely place. Lots going on there. And I just want to thank you, Dr. Kim Freeze, for joining us today. And if you just wanted to leave us with a last word of maybe something that you're hopeful for anybody who might be tuning in to our podcast today.
I am very hopeful that educators will embrace new, teaching or pedagogical resources around entrepreneurial mindset, because as you mentioned with the textbooks, it's a theoretical approach. It really doesn't allow students to broaden and be creative and use their own thinking processes. We read and we just kind of adhere to what's being taught, and that's okay, and it's applicable in certain situations. But I would really like to invite educators to offer more design-based, project-based thinking opportunities for students and an entrepreneurship mindset activities, because you just don't know what you don't know, and students don't often share. And when you offer these opportunities, a lot of times students feel that they're in a safe space and they can actually really talk about what's going on with them, because when we ask, they don't always share. But when you create these safe spaces, such as the Innovation Jam, we had several individuals with mental health issues, and they said it was the first time they felt like they fit in and that there was hope.
Oh, wow.
That gave me chills. And one of those students is in the Event Oregon, and he really struggles. And so just your heart, it's just this great place that we can prepare our students to succeed in in this world that's ever changing. They can be fearful, but it's very good to instill hope, and it's exhilarating, all the things that are happening. So really thinking about what we do in the classroom and what we can do more to support our students with mental health issues.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kim. I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you. It's been an honor.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you will continue to explore the many ways to define entrepreneurship with NACCE as we celebrate opportunity, failing forward, and success, learning from one another along the way. Subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and follow at NACCE on social media, and learn more about us at nacce.com/podcast. Stay tuned for a new episode each week. We look forward to making our way forward together with you.